We have a surprise for you. This is a very special episode of CBC Arts Exhibitionists because we're in the Peg. We are on location at the Winnipeg Art Gallery, and I'm about to take you through this groundbreaking exhibition showcasing some of Canada's most exciting Indigenous artists. Hello and welcome to CBC Arts Exhibitionists, the show that gives you an exclusive look into the innovative and imaginative world of Canadian art. I'm your host, Amanda Parris. We took our show on the road and are bringing you today's episode from the Winnipeg Art Gallery. Why the Peg, you ask? Because the WAG, that's the cool kid name for the Winnipeg Art Gallery, has a very special exhibit happening called Insurgence, Resurgence. Bringing together 29 Indigenous artists who are pushing boundaries through tattooing, painting, sculpture, and installation, this exhibition is meant to shift what we think we know about Canada. So for the next 30 minutes, we're gonna meet some of the featured artists. But first, to get us all on the same page, I'm gonna sit down with the curators of the exhibit, Jamie Isaac and Julie Nagam, to get the 411 on the show. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Julie. Thank you so much for welcoming us to this incredible show. Can you talk a little bit about the types of art that people are going to see? Because it goes across a lot of different mediums, right?
Yeah. I think a sound installation, vinyl in situ work. As we see here, Fema Egaris's work, which is a contact mic behind the hide, and it acts as a big drum in the space. And we have film, paintings, tattoo, beading,
watercolor, sculpture installation, some new media.
Light installation.
Yeah.
So you're both Indigenous curators. Can you break down why that is an important thing for people to think about when you're having an exhibition celebrating and exploring Indigenous art?
Well, I come from a Anishinaabe, Ojibwe background. From my mom's side, Territory 1 from Saugeen First Nation, and my father's side is of British heritage.
On my mom's side is Anishinaabe, Métis, and my dad's side is Syrian and German.
I think in really having a perspective or a filter of Indigenous background for curating is to also think about that history of how Indigenous art has been misrepresented or not at all. If they were more thought of as relics or antiques and not thought about in a contemporary way.
For me, I think a lot about the inspiration and the future generations that will come after us and why it's important that it's our voice and our self-determining acts as curators, but even in the larger indigenization of this institution of why we want to focus and make Winnipeg the epicenter of Indigenous contemporary arts.
We also stand on the shoulders of many artists and curators of Indigenous heritage working before us and really creating a space for us in these institutions now, and I know that took a long time to do that.
Yeah, and it's still something currently we're battling in Canadian museums and galleries today.
Thank you both so much for welcoming me to this exhibition. It's incredible, and I'm so excited to spend a little bit more time with it. Thank you.
Miigwech for coming.
Miigwech and Marcy, and thank you for coming.
Okay, so we met the curators. They've helped set the stage. Now let's meet the artists. The places that we live, they shape who we are and how we understand ourselves. For Kenneth Lavallee, that place is here, and now he's leaving his mark on the city with a giant image on the outside of the gallery. So we hung out with him in Winnipeg to find out how it came to be.
Oh, there's a plaque for it right there. I never actually read that. Created in the 9th moon of 1984, my year of birth. His last statement to the world. It's heavy. My name is Kenneth Lavallee. I'm an artist living and working in Winnipeg, Manitoba. A lot of my work kind of, it draws on a lot of influences. Being Métis, I think. I grew up with a lot of Indigenous art in my home with that influence and kind of a more modern influence, very clean design. So I kind of marry two ideas of like kind of traditional art with modern. So to see a beautiful painting like that with these like nice flowing colors, I don't know, I've had an immediate connection with that, and I would see it every day, just sitting by the window, just wide-eyed. Knowing that you could do that, you could paint the sides of massive buildings and make a living off of it and have people like take care of it over time and kind of an icon of the neighborhood. I get asked this question a lot, like how does it feel to be a Métis artist? And, you know, I don't work with beads or, you know, sashes, you know, so I'm a Métis of the 21st century. What is a Métis artist in these days, you know? My work kind of just responds to the place where it's gonna show. So, you know, spending a lot of time around this building and, you know, the legislatures are there, the Golden Boys just standing proud just down the street. The rivers are right nearby. I wanted to make a piece that complemented all of these factors and drawing parallels between kind of Indigenous culture and Western Greek culture. I feel like being Métis, you know, I'm kind of super interested in the Indigenous aspects of my background, but also the Western too. So I'm just trying to like kind of meld these two worlds together. So yeah, I had the image of the Golden Boy holding his torch and this flame of hope, but I've deconstructed it to just aspect of his light kind of shining through the floodwaters of the great flood that's to come and has always come and will continue to come and wash away kind of humanity's ills, and we get to start anew. Like the Jackson Beardy murals, it's about hope. To be a Winnipeg boy who just kind of started in the North End, kept going at art, being inspired by local artists, and now to be recognized by this old institution and to be the face of the show, I guess I'm very lucky to have that opportunity. It'd be great to influence someone else, another little kid riding the bus.
Over the past 3 seasons of CBC Arts Exhibitionists, we've shared stories about many Indigenous artists creating innovative work across this country. So throughout the episode, we're gonna show you short excerpts from some of our faves. A couple of summers ago, we introduced you to a bunch of skateboarders who, right here in Winnipeg, were taking over the streets using the art of skateboarding as an act of political reclamation. Check it out.
I mean, we go to some severe extents to do these tricks on their properties, but I mean, in the end of all of it, it's all worth it, and we're not trying to, you know, obviously we're damaging their property.
Ouch. An employee came out, he's not even security, he comes out and he's like, hey, you guys gotta get out of here, there's no skateboarding here. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, like, we'll leave in a bit. Anyway, he's like, what? No, you guys gotta leave right now. Like, what makes you think you can skate here? You know who paid for all this? And I was like, well, I know this was paid for from profits derived from Indigenous lands, and they were never properly compensated for. And as an Indigenous person, I believe I have the right to be here.
Coming up, we delve into the artistic process of one artist whose geometric compositions may leave you feeling a little meditative.
This tradition is dying and we need to do something about it, and I have a huge passion for it. I'm good with my hands and I'm good with artwork, and I'm good with people. Everything that I've been working for my whole life brought me to becoming a tattoo artist. And I hope to have see so many other Inuit women tattooing other Inuit women.
You understand?
Look at, we're gonna have the same on both sides.
Yeah, the same arms.
There's no right way to create art. Every artist has to figure out their own practice. For some, it requires a lot of prep and planning. But for Dee Barsy, it's all about getting into the right headspace that lets her instinct take over.
I don't know why the background is blue, but it's blue. It can be thought of as open space. I was kind of thinking about the running too and how I'm in open space when I'm running. Running frees my brain and my body. When I'm running, I don't think about anything but what I'm doing in that moment, and that's really good for me. When I'm painting, I'm thinking about everything, and I'm thinking so hard. And it's a good contrast. My work is full of energy, and I try to portray that energy through shape, color, line, and a complex composition that's kind of exploding. I paint the entire surface blue, and then I just start working on the composition. I might randomly put down some sort of random shape to start playing around with a composition. I don't know what the composition is going to look like, but it evolves over time. I think that if I were to overthink my paintings, they would lose some of their feeling, like they would lose some of their authenticity maybe. To be involved in Insurgence, Resurgence has been quite the honor. When I think of myself as an Indigenous person or artist, the first thing I think about is younger generations and how can I help or inspire or be a role model. I was adopted when I was a baby. This is my dad, my adopted dad, and this is his mother, and she passed away on Mother's Day. Like when my grandma died, I started thinking about grandmothers. That space that I was in emotionally influenced the painting. And I had this realization. It was very simple. I just thought, I have 4 grandmothers. Well, this one's cute. And I'm wearing like a little art suit with paint and stuff. It's me. Yeah. And there's my gran. My gran is my adoptive mom's mother. We had a lot of fun. So with that original idea, my 4 grandmothers, that realization, I started thinking about the interconnectedness of these 4 people and how they're related through me. It's really important for me as an artist to show people my art. Like I know that sounds kind of funny, but I learn a lot from people's reaction to my art or people's interpretation of my art. My style will change, my paintings will change, and I'm excited to see what happens of what my paintings will look like in 5 years compared to how they look like now.
History is often built into architecture. It can be found embedded in the very structures of the places where you live. This next artist is telling the story of her own cultural history by recreating the same house over and over again. But each time she does it, there's a slightly new spin. Take a look.
My name is Tiffany Shaw-Collinge. I'm an artist and an intern architect from Edmonton, Alberta. I was born in Calgary, raised in Edmonton, and my family comes from Fort McMurray, originally from the Red River. Our family is Métis, and I'm super proud of that. What I like to think about is time, weathering effects, and materiality, and how people use material and maybe using them differently than how they would often be used. And then I try to provoke questions. The 6 cabins that are created for the Winnipeg Art Gallery, 3 of them were from the Venice Biennale that I created originally, and then there are 3 additional ones that I created to accompany them for this exhibition. The first cabin was created out of leather. I sourced that from my family in Fort McMurray, and it's a deer hide sewn with imitation sinew. And the second cabin is a crocheted fabric, and that's to recognize the technologies and the craft that my family passed down to me. So my mother crochets and knits a lot. And the third cabin is made out of zip ties. I'm just thinking about where are Indigenous people going, what kind of materials are they using today as opposed to when leather was being used with my great-grandmother as a moccasin maker. And then the three that I created for this exhibition are more about materiality of Métis people specific. So the birch bark cabin that I created has the almost like a dovetail joint at the corners of each cabin. That's something that Métis people used in cabin making during the fort era. I foraged the birch bark from the river valley in Edmonton near an area that has been used for centuries for ceremony. And then I created 2 other cabins that utilize my great-grandmother's moccasin beading pattern. And those are floral images. I laser cut one out of paper, and then I vinyl cut one out of mirror vinyl that is really about how Indigenous people see themselves today. When I think about Indigenous work, for me, it's very contemporary. Our culture is not stagnant, it's thriving. And so seeing a pattern that my great-grandmother drew is something that I could use very easily, but in different ways. So perhaps she did embroidery, or she did sewing, or she did beading, but I will do laser cutting, I will do water jet cutting, I will do plasma cutting, I'll model them in 3D environments. And I feel like I'm still using a pattern that we created or that she had a hand in creating that I can still have the permission to use. I feel like it's mine, and so I'm able to move it forward.
Coming up, Joi Arcand is bringing Cree language to the gallery in massive glowing neon.
The Hollywood Indian's always been portrayed as the monster, and I thought by taking necessarily European stories, I guess, and giving them an Indigenous twist, I felt like it's a reverse cultural appropriation. There's the Bride of Frankenstein, Last Brave on Earth, Invisible Warrior, Tribe of Dracula, Frankenstein, Chief Werewolf, The Curse of the Cayuga, and Phantom of the Powwow are all pieces in my Indigenous movie monster series.
That was a clip from our story on Jay Soul, aka Chippewa, the multimedia artist who has declared war on the ways Hollywood stereotypes Indigenous culture. Could you read any of the signs in the place where you live if they were written in an Indigenous language? Can you read any of this? I can't. We're a country of English and French, and it's the absence of this next artist's own language that drives her work. So she's using her art to invite Canadians to research and recognize Cree.
It really is a conversation with myself by asserting that I want to speak Cree. Me wanting it so badly that I would make a 10-foot neon sign out of it. I'm Joi Arcand, and I'm from Muskeg Lake Cree Nation, and I'm a visual artist, photographer, and designer. As a person just walking down the street, I start to see the shapes of the syllables in traffic signs. They would just appear to me, and so I just decided, what would the world look like if it was through this lens of this Indigenous language that has been here for millennia? What would happen if that was what everybody saw and interacted with on a daily basis? The language was one of the main ways that Canadian government were able to take away a lot of the culture and the teachings that are passed down through language. Once that was taken away, it really disrupted that transfer of knowledge. That's why it's important to me to make it hyper-visible in the world. It's to say that the language wasn't lost. it was taken, and we're here to take it back. It helps me to be more comfortable with it, with speaking it, and sharing it with others is really important to my work as well. Sometimes I don't provide translations because I don't want that immediate satisfaction of just being given the answer. I like to challenge viewers to take the time to look up what it means and maybe learn a little bit of the language on their own. Canadian society is catered to English speakers and French speakers, so you don't have to be challenged ever. When you're in public, everything is catered to you. And myself as an English speaker, it's the same for me, so what I'm trying to do is disrupt that a little bit.
Thank you to the Winnipeg Art Gallery for welcoming us to this groundbreaking show. As always, if there's an artist you think should be on CBC Arts Exhibitionists, let us know. Send us a message on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Our handle is @CBC Arts. I'll be back next time with even more artists from Moosonee to Chisasibi. Until then, keep creating and innovating. But before I go, I'm gonna leave you with the powwow dancers that make every Tribe Called Red show an epic out of this world party. Peace.
I love when I see other First Nations people in the audience that are super proud and excited and hyped to see us on stage and see somebody that's like them representing their culture and their dances and their songs, and especially young little natives like children being really excited and proud.